so you know. So
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that bit when it does that. But anyway.
Does it give you the overwhelming desire to suddenly start swearing? You know,
Yeah.
Big Brother, whatever you say now,
What are you suggesting?
no swearing from here on in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like the BBC with us.
It's the authentic accent that gets me every time. It's like, you know, she's definitely not from Devon, put it that way.
Yeah, very, very Silicon Valley.
Here comes a man who knows a few things about sales. Morning, John.
Morning, John.
Yeah, looking like you're about to take off with your pilot's headset on there. And Ashley's joining us. Hi, Ashley. And if you've joined us and you want to be on mute, feel free. If you just want to wade in and talk over the top of us, please don't stay on mute or on ceremony.
Good morning.
Hi, Ashley. One day we're going to get you on early to like open with a riff.
You reckon?
On the wish list.
If you were on at 5:10 this morning, you'd have seen my story on LinkedIn. I was out on my paddleboard enjoying the peace and tranquility. So if I hide the camera, you know I'm having a nap.
Fair enough. We'll get someone to yell very loudly and wake you up. Yeah. Oh look, and it's almost an international call. Hi Daniel, you're joining us all the way from Liverpool, I believe.
The background isn't too bad. The background isn't too loud.
There you are. No, look at you. Hello.
Hello, hello.
All the way from Merseyside.
Literally overlooking the docks.
I don't think they talk like that.
Haven't they just lost their UNESCO standing because of those docks?
Very good, thank you. How are you
doing?
They've done some development on the Liverpool waterfront, and literally breaking news: Liverpool stripped of UNESCO World Heritage status due to development on the waterfront.
They were talking about it this morning, but I didn't know it had actually been stripped. I thought they were thinking about stripping it. Has it gone?
According to my my breaking news flash from the BBC, yeah, it's gone.
Ooh. Well, there is a lot of development happening here.
Hold that thought, we might have a whole new live on the horizon. How are we doing with people coming in, Laura?
I was going to say, I think it's kind of slowed down now, so it will let people in as and when. But I think we should crack on.
Okay. So welcome everyone to the Collaborate Business community. And if you've been here before, I think this is our very first business live with our own breaking news that we've managed to hold that hasn't been in lockdown. We didn't start these on purpose to run during lockdown, but what we now have is a business live that's held in true freedom.
Did you catch what I was saying?
There's a hot negotiation going on in the background. So yeah, if everyone just wants to mute now, whilst we just get going. The heart of the Collaborate Business community is the Business Live. And if you're wondering why we call it a live when it's online, it's because we don't do networking, but if we did, we would have this interactive forum where people and business minds and ideas and innovations get thrown about and people walk away with ideas as well as new connections. So it's designed to be multi-regional, interactive, and will always stay live online. At the heart of everything we do is the Collaborate Mastermind and Business Hub, which is our ethos of leave your ego at the door, give to get, and grow yourself to grow your business. And out of that morphs everything we do. So our free open house is always here for you. It will always be free, thanks to the magic that is BIPC and Libraries Unlimited, who we partner with, so they can allow us to bring you some free magic every month. So if you like this, please do go online and say thank you and share the love. we don't want to stay here talking forever. What we want to do is get into the heart of the conversation and then send you all into breakout rooms so that you can create your own takeaways, create your own innovations, and your own new connections. To make that possible, to encourage those conversation, we will send out everybody's contact details or everyone's LinkedIn contact details. We'll email them to you afterwards. So you don't need to type away in the chat. You can be part of the conversation. We think it's always polite to say to people, if you don't want us to share your information, if you just want to type in no or not feeling sociable today, then we won't share your stuff. So that's all fine. Now, why have we got Bob and Amy on here today? Well, our live started as our open house, and then it morphed into this thing called the Festival of Collaboration that we held last month. If you were there, thank you. It was just a day of amazing conversation takeaway. And if you weren't there, it basically morphed out of the live. It's like 9 mini lives, 9 mini interactive conversations on steroids. We've spent the last month going to people, what's your takeaway, what's your feedback on that? And everybody went, we loved it. We want you to do it again. Please make it a regular fixture. So we're going to do that. And then the other feedback that came out of it was we love the conversation and we want to go deeper. We really want to take some of this stuff and suck the juice out of it. So welcome to the Business Live, which is your introduction to the next thing we'll be launching, which are single sector deep dives. So no surprises. One of the hottest topics from the festival was sales. How do we do sales post-pandemic? We've spent a year relearning everything we thought we knew about communication and selling when it's not face-to-face. And now we have Freedom Day. So do we just dump all that and go back to how it was? Hurrah, hurrah. Or do we now have 2 rule books? And if so, how do we join them together so that we get the efficiency, we get the brilliant online, but we morph it with live as well. So welcome to Bob and Amy, who hosted the table for us at the festival. And if you like what they do today, as a little taster, we'll be running a deep dive single sector in September, where we'll go into 2 hours of let's really get to the heart of this. Then our next festival will be in October. And because we now have all this wonderful juice that we can give you, we're creating a free wrapper around our community. And we're going to invite you to join the Collaborate Business community once we take the wrapper off, so that you can always get everything that we do and be part of the conversation free. And then if you like more, of course, you can come a bit deeper on the journey with us. Enough from me. I want to hand you over to Amy and Bob. Bob, to coin a phrase from another man who's on this call, Bob's not from around these parts, as you'll hear when he starts to speak. Bob has been selling via the webcam long before the pandemic ever darkened our doors. And actually, he's just been hired by the UK DIT to educate and run all their online stuff. So in Bob's own words, he knows a thing or two. Amy comes out of Barclays. I hope you won't mind me saying this, Amy, but banks are not known normally for breaking the mold and being quick off the mark when it comes to agility and change. But Amy spent the last year agitating and innovating and being at the forefront of creating a new way of doing sales. So they're here just to open the floor, create the beginnings of the discussion, and then it's over to you. We're not saying that it's right or wrong, or there's a this or a that. It's your takeaway. You get to debate it in the breakout rooms. You get to take away your own nuggets, and we'll bring everyone back together at the end to dissect the conversation. So enough from me. Bob, Amy, hello to you.
Well, are you with us, Amy?
I'm here. Thank you very much, Mandy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Do you mind if I just explain a little bit more about what Amy and I have been doing that could be valuable down in the Southwest? We're based in a business development incubator. It's called C40i, and it's based in Hull. It's based in Hull. Amy's role is to manage all the relationships. So if you can imagine it is reasonable to say that banks are not so agile, to be honest. They're not designed to be agile. But Amy's been having to work with all the relationships from the corporate end to the startup end through this environment. So we're going to be talking about that, Amy, if that's all right. You can probably tell that my accent is not from these here parts, which it's not. I don't think you'd be that surprised to know the Southern Hemisphere jumped onto the webcam a long time ago. If I compare Australia, Hong Kong, and South Africa, which is the three areas that I'm from, then I'm going to bounce it back to Amy. In South Africa, I don't think I'm giving anything away if you've caught the news. It's quite a violent place, and it has been quite violent for the last 10, 11 years. So a lot of business development meetings have taken place like this. And believe it or not, a lot of networking groups have been working like this. Australia jumped onto Skype very, very early days because just the sheer distance of having business meetings, just the sheer distance. And for sure, the Hong Kong, People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, out to NZ, Oz in South Africa, that's all about distance. So you've got the double whammy or triple whammy of time zone, different uses of English, as well as difference. And so it's been quite a journey. So as a takeaway, Mandy, the first takeaway, I would say to anyone on the call, if you get the chance to go on to any business development seminars hosted in Hong Kong, Johannesburg, Melbourne, or whatever, I check it out, because although it may mean you disrupting your sleeping habit, you're guaranteed to hear things that you wouldn't in the UK. So I think, Mandy, the first thing is there are different things that you can do, but you just have to kind of search for what does that mean. Well, here's the thing, Amy. Let's get into it then. You have had a very successful coronavirus interacting with clients. Why has that been? Why have you had such a good coronavirus?
I wouldn't say we had a good coronavirus.
Well, relatively.
But since the pandemic, Barclays have totally had to adapt to their way of working. So a bit of background on myself. So I work for Barclays, but it's actually Barclays Eagle Labs. So it may be something you're familiar with, may not be. But I actually recognise the background of Avenue HQ Liverpool because of the cupboards, but I did want to mention it just in case. So yeah, one of our partners is in Avenue HQ, and that's in Leeds and Liverpool. And my old lab was in Leeds, and I now work for C4DI in Hull as an ecosystem manager. So my role is very much looking after relationships with over 300 clients. So from startups to scale ups to the corporates, like Bob mentioned. And pre-pandemic, it was very much face-to-face meetings. You could probably meet 2 clients in a day, one on site, maybe one out in the ecosystem, could be academia like University of Hull, and local investor that you wanted to connect one of your high growth businesses with. Whereas since the pandemic, it's very much transformed into a virtual world, which for myself has been very successful because you're not just restricted to what's called our local ecosystem. So when it comes to talking to either prospect clients or existing clients to add that value, you're able to do much more within your day, but also expand much wider. And we use a number of third-party platforms to be able to identify our customer base as well. So being able to really stretch out from that whole postcode to going out to, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the Humber region, but we have York that's very near, we have Northallerton, we have Beverley, and we have the coast. So previously, we'd only be able to do our sales and our connections in Hull, whereas now we do have the flexibility and also the availability in your diary to be able to make those connections outside a wider geographical location. So I believe the reason that I've had success, I suppose, during these times is due to being more agile, more flexible, but also really expanding that reach of connections and knowing, it's being able to research and take time on who you would be able to add value to. What does your business do? What does your business solve? And who do you want to be able to educate around that? And that's the reason that I've been so successful. And then going into this Freedom Day, and I suppose the post-pandemic world, it's very much around that hybrid role now. So I'm very much mixing my Zoom calls, my WebEx calls, my Teams calls, to also seeing the members within C4GI. So the coffee chats, the casual coffee chats are back at the coffee machine, which is amazing. But there's also still those clients that we can add value to, and we would be able to help their business to grow that aren't available to come and meet face to face. It's having that flexibility and ownership of your diary and being able to know who you can meet and being able to do a bit of both depending on what your client wants as well, all around the customer needs, I suppose, Bob.
All right, you know what I'm like. I'd like to ask you some more questions. All right, I mean, you're given an overview of it. So if I was to play it back, essentially, because I'm sure you won't mind me sharing that with everyone. Well, I'm going to anyway. You got promoted over this period. So you're saying that diary flexibility, that's one benefit case for you. Mm-hmm. The second thing has been the number of people that you can meet per day. The third thing, you're not restricted by premises. So those have been three drivers. All right. Can you think of anything specific that has altered between your interaction? Because we're going to talk about the hybrid model, but I'm thinking about your interaction as a Barclays employee, okay, with all of these different types of connection. What's altered? What's altered?
I'd say the key thing that's altered for myself with these different types of connections is having the first kept appointment virtually always now, because there's no need to be able to have to go and meet your first kept appointment face to face, because you may be traveling for however long, then you have the meeting for maybe half an hour, and then you're able to meet them again or do the next one virtually. I do personally believe that the greatest thing that we've kind of I've taken in my stride, I suppose we won't know until you try it, but what I found quite successful is doing that first initial 15 minutes or half an hour appointment introduction virtually. So then you're able to understand and establish how you're able to meet that customer's needs, how you're able to support that client, and then go for the face-to-face meeting if that is what your client wants. They may be happy with a virtual support and being able to win that client via the webcam. However, I do believe that it's a great way to set an operating rhythm, I suppose, when talking to your clients. Whereas before, it's altered from seeing everybody face to face and having to travel to meet everybody. I'd say it's the biggest thing that's altered.
Okay, so you're thinking your hybrid model from here on in is probably first meetings, that kind of meeting when you're sounding each other out, that will still probably sit as a virtual piece of interaction, and then the second meeting will be face to face. Okay, just something else before you can ask me some questions, man, because I like asking questions. So what I'm thinking is, on the basis that everyone's talking to everyone through a camera, secondly, a lot of the professional service offers sound similar through a camera. Roll with that, okay? So if you think of the products of the Royal Bank of Scotland and the products of the NatWest and the products of Barclays, it all probably sounds very similar. It's not the only discipline. Like, I know we've got a couple of solicitors on this call. Arguably, lawyers all sound very similar through a webcam. I mean, part of the power you get is when somebody actually comes to visit you and they can see the premises and you get that face-to-face vibe. They get a feel of the branch location. You kind of lose all of that through a camera. And when I told you this one before, I got a pal, believe it or not, I got a friend. and he's a wealth manager. All right, he's a wealth manager. This guy's a wealth manager. And for those of you on the call who are salespeople, you would hate this guy as much as I do, apart from he's my friend. Why do I hate him? Well, number one, he's 6'1". I'm about 5'8". That's not a big deal. He's 6'1" and kind of looks like Timothy Dalton when he was James Bond. Can you imagine how sickening that is if you're a bloke? Not only that, he's got this really, really cool accent. It's kind of a bit like Richard Burton, whereas I'm burdened with, when I'm explaining things, I sound like a Paul Hogan stand-in, and that really doesn't help you when you're trying to explain something. So the guy looks like James Bond. He sounds like Julius Caesar. He's one of the few people, Amy, that can wear an expensive suit and make it look more expensive, where I have the effect that when I wear my boss suit, it looks like I've just come out of a scope shop. So he's got everything. On a webcam, all of that is gone. On a web, most of it's gone. So I'm thinking, right, I know that the Barclays branch in Hull, it's always got a good vibe. It's in an old established place. So you've lost that. So how are you keeping relationships when everything pretty much sounds the same? How are you doing it?
It's very much the pre-work of your appointment, and it may take only half an hour, but I've got to be honest, it has really, really helped me finding out about that business, what their pinpoints are, what their recent success stories is. So a really clear example for me is when I'm reaching out to high growth companies that we look to support and scale. I'll use tools like the Tech Report for Hull and Humber, who's on there. And when I'm reaching out to them, rather than just saying, hi, my name's Amy, this is what I do, I actually reach out to say, hi, my name's Amy, I've noticed that you've recently won a tech award. That's amazing. Congratulations. Would love to see how we'd be able to support your growth further due to your success already. And that hooks them in because you've already made an impression that you know that about their business and you know something that's important to them. So it's almost like plugging on the heartstrings, but it is genuinely relevant to what I do. So I'm able to play that back in the conversation. So even though they are able to see the amazing C4DI or see the branch, which is breathtaking, they are able to actually connect on an emotional level to something that's important to them.
Okay, because we ran through some ideas before, and I guess the takeaway on this for anybody is preparation, preparation, preparation. The one thing that can separate you on a webcam call is preparation. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that can separate you is to go on and have a really good 360-degree review of their website, have a good 360-degree review of any news, a 360-degree review of LinkedIn profiles that are appropriate. So the moment that you jump into the call, you can personalize the conversation immediately. Talk about the niche that they're in, talk about recent successes, show reference points that you understand their sector, you understand the market that they're performing in. Do your research. There's lots and lots of great information that's been produced throughout the pandemic about sector segments. So if you jump on a call, your first goal is to establish yourself as a recognized authority. Now, when you're on a call, you're not an aspirin looking for a headache. If you go onto a call and you can evidence, I've reviewed the Tech Nation report, I've reviewed the PwC report on the Northern Powerhouse tech scene, I've reviewed the information from the Humber Lab, I see your company came up twice, I reviewed this report from Barclays, Eagle Labs, Kensington, and this looks, you've really got evidence much earlier in a webcam-based call that you know what you were talking about, that you know what you're talking about. It's absolutely critical more than anything else. I'm not a British. I can't really do an impression of it if I wanted to, I suppose. But generally, and it may not apply, it may be my stereotypical view of things, people tend to make small talk, which is cool. It's absolutely cool. So do whatever small talk you're going to do, but compress it. And if you can, make it small talk that's viable for them to engage in. And then try and jump in as soon as you can to show that this conversation is relevant to them. And it's preparation, preparation, preparation. So I know what you've been doing, Ames, is like looking at all this, the research tools we've got and the bank has. So when you jump in onto a call, they're very aware, very early doors, that you're well informed, you're up to date, you know their gig, you know the deal. And as soon as you spread those things, Amy, it's not like pulling on heartstrings. People tend to think if it's a bank, okay, this might go somewhere.
Yeah. And I think that's it for me. Just an example, last week I was at the Great Yorkshire Show, 20,000 people attending each day, Tuesday to Friday. And it was very much walking around the stands, meeting all of the businesses. And if we was to we just walked up to one business and said, hi, you know, this is what we do as Barclays, what do you do? This is face-to-face, by the way, so not on the webcam. They was very much standoffish because they saw the corporate logo, you're trying to sell them something, don't want to know you. The next one, we Googled the company, found out what they did, literally 5 minutes before walking to the next stand, and the conversation was just so much smoother. So even though we're talking about online business development, when you are going to even a face-to-face one, it's so important to know the client that you're going to speak to, because it really makes that warm introduction and that warm conversation so much easier and so much more successful. Bob, I've got a question for you now, if that's all right, if you've not done enough questions towards me.
I'll ask one more after you've asked me a question. Go for it.
So you mentioned, we've talked about the importance of prep and the importance of knowing the client that you're wanting to win. And something you spoke to me about previously is how that webcam conversation looks like. So the timings of it, and when you have the most attention and when it starts to drop off. I think that'd be really relevant to share, to see, yes, we spoke about the prep work, but then the actual webcam call, what is successful? Well, with you doing it 10 years prior to the pandemic, you've got a lot of success in it, you've got a lot of experience. What, broken down, does that look like?
Okay, I'll share some basics here. There's a whole lot of research out there, so I'll quote something, but I'm not quoting something I've prepared. You can find this information yourself, but roll with this. Try not to have webcam-based calls that are important to your business after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because the first thing, Ames, is there is webcam fatigue. There absolutely is webcam fatigue. So that's the first thing. If it's important, try and get it in before 2 o'clock. I'd even consider that it's probably worth it being a deal breaker. You know, can we do it another day then? Because there's a whole load of evidence around people's retention of information via webcam. Now, here's something to consider. There's a whole body of work, and it's around retention of information, Amy. And I'll quote something here. It's called the Ebbinghaus effect, the Ebbinghaus effect. And the Ebbinghaus effect is that 30 days after being shown new information, you only recall 20% of it. So think that through. If you're having a first meeting with someone, the retention of information is going through the floor. Now that's in a face-to-face meeting, because, and it doesn't apply to anyone in particular, webcam calls can be very, very samey, because it doesn't really matter what sector you're in. You're going to have to use sector vernacular, aren't you? So if it's an accountancy call, you know, you can't really go on the call dressed like Coco the Clown to make yourself memorable. If it's a call, well, I guess you could. If it's banking, you know, you can't suddenly halfway through it, you know, start showing your holiday photos or something. So what ends up, most calls through a webcam, they sound so similar, which means the Ebbinghaus effect, if you look it up, the Ebbinghaus effect, which is 30 days, it goes down to 17. So you just think, let's say today you've had a great meeting with someone. It doesn't have to be a sales call, Amy. You think that was a really great meeting. 17 days from now, it's highly likely they can only recall 20% of the content that was new. And we know on a call, it's the new content that kills. So whatever it was that was new content, there's only a 20% recall. Try and get meeting slots I call them breakfast meeting slots or coffee meeting slots. The most productive time to hook up with someone's 8 in the morning. And that does work for a lot of people. I consult, as Mandy and Annabelle know, for 7 different legal firms. And we've been working, Amy, on having breakfast meetings. And they're the most productive ones because people have just started the day. Think of it yourself. When you go on calls, those calls that are later in the afternoon, if it's a multi-person call, Amy, there's a high likelihood that not everyone's going to make it. A high likelihood. So if one of you on this meeting today, you're saying, well, okay, most of my calls, it's me, my partner, and 2 other people, there's an 80% likelihood that someone's going to drop out because as the day unfolds, we're managing crisis and we don't see online calls in the diary to the same value standard, Amy, as ones that were booked in face-to-face. So I think it's in the morning. Try and go for an 8 o'clocker. And if it is new information, try and compress the meetings, Amy. So if it is something new, then within 17 days, try and book that second meeting because there's evidence, research it yourselves that it deteriorates. So if that's the kind of thing, Amy, I think follow through. What you can do to combat this, everyone sounds the same. Everybody, the longer the day goes on, it's harder to retain information. What you need to do, Amy, is develop crib sheets. So I'd suggest this. So as you know, I go onto a call. So I say, well, the first thing is, Amy, are you on WhatsApp? Fantastic. After this meeting, I'm going to zap you a quick WhatsApp. So we're hooked up on WhatsApp. I'll also text you my mobile number, my GSM. So we're hooked up on WhatsApp. We're hooked up on GSM. And I always link up on LinkedIn. So I'll perhaps drop you a quick message. I wouldn't say it as quickly as that, but what it does, Amy, already I've got 3 communication paths to follow up. I then send through a synopsis of what we discussed that was new information. I'll then drop you a line on WhatsApp. Hey there, Amy, quick call. We spoke on Thursday. Any feedback you've got on that one pager I sent you, really would look forward to it. Hope you're having a great day. Now, you've got to be careful with, I suppose, the Southern Hemisphere or American vernaculars that I use. But there is evidence, Amy, that if you touch a relationship 4 times, so that's 4 different touches, right? LinkedIn, a message, GSM, a text, WhatsApp, quick text, email, I'm more likely to be embedded into you than if it's just, okay, let's get back to each other. See you next week.
Yeah.
And once you've got that material, Amy, it's a piece of cake. I mean, I've shown you, I've got like paragraphs on that I use repeatedly, which I drop into WhatsApp. So it's not that time consuming. But if you think about it, if you're going to be memorable, you got to give people reasons to remember you by.
Yeah.
So if it's like, oh yeah, I spoke to this guy, crikey, he was keen. He dropped me a WhatsApp. He sent me this. It's trying to create that connectivity when we don't meet. We haven't had that coffee. We haven't had that small talk. For example, we haven't discussed that the British Lions probably won't win in South Africa, or all those things that British rugby players want to, fans want to talk to me about. It makes you memorable.
Yeah. And as well, someone mentioned in the chat about the research. When you're not doing face-to-face meetings, you've got that time. So you've got that research time at the beginning, and you've also got that follow-up time afterwards. So the time that you've spent being at home, then Ashley, no excuse. Could have better myself.
All right.
Guys and girls, I honestly, now you can see why we had to take this conversation from the festival and launch it into the beginnings of a deeper dive. We could probably listen to you for the rest of the day. However, we want to say that's your opening paragraph for the deep dive that we're going to do in September. If you're interested to be part of the single topic in September, then just drop us a message and we'll let you know the exact date. So you've had a wee quick taste of what online success can look like. Even if we didn't do it very well, we all thought we knew how to sell face-to-face. And those of us thought we did know how to do it very well were probably running around training other people. So we've come from what we know. We have a taste of what we didn't know, but now we know quite well. Annabelle, I'm going to hand it over to you because I think we should get people in breakout rooms.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Mandy. And thank you, Bob and Amy. That was amazing. I can't wait for us all to go into the breakout rooms now. So you're going to be put into breakout rooms and we're going to have hosts. So your hosts are Becky Brennan, Kate Ashmore, Bob Spence and Matt Dunn. So here are the questions, but don't worry, your breakout room host will have them. So these two will be discussed in your rooms. We're going to give you 15 minutes to go into the discussion, and then we're going to come back and hear what fantastic insights and takeaways you're going to have. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Breakout room host, take it away. Laura's going to put everybody into breakouts now. You don't need to touch any tech. You will just be sent into a room and the question will be ready for you with your host when you arrive. See you in 15, everyone. Thank you so much.
Annabelle, it doesn't seem to let me assign you just a room. You're on mute.
Because I'm the host. So
Okay.
I can just choose.
You go and I'll stay in the foyer. You go and.
Yeah. I'm in the.
So I will shut them down in. At what time?
It's 11:37 by my clock.
Yes.
So what's that? So 37, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, like 10, just after 10 to.
I'll give them
all right.
A reminder in 5. Cool.
Bye. Oh. Thanks,
thank you very much. Yeah, so we help people become better off by creating, spotting, and executing opportunities for them. And we can do this as a multidisciplinary professional service offering with lawyers, accountants, and wealth managers under the same roof.
Fancy. Brilliant. So, what have you done to keep your key relationships intact during lockdown? Has anyone got any immediate pearls of wisdom to share?
I'll jump in because it's probably an easier story for me. I spent the first 5 months of lockdown on furlough while I was at Foodanstey, a large law firm based in Senate Court. I then decided to take a leap of faith and move to a much smaller outfit, being proudest, but with the opportunity to try and grow something. I was probably reading far too many audiobooks or listening to audiobooks at the time, saying if you don't take any risks, you don't grow. So I thought, well, this is my chance to take that risk and do something different. So it was starting from scratch then during lockdown in a new business, building new contacts, trying to build relationships with team members, all of it virtually, which was quite difficult at the time, stepping into after 5 months of lockdown, because everyone else felt like they were very au fait with using the virtual environment. But in a way, I almost use that as an excuse to say I apologize that I haven't been online for 5 months, but now I'm trying to get into it. And it's amazing how accommodating everyone was. Forgive the technical issues, forgive the issues on presentations and all the rest of it. But yeah, in terms of keeping in contact then with clients, it was trying to refresh some of those existing relationships. And it's really very akin to the stories we've heard so far from Amy around just trying to find ways of connecting with people as individuals. I think the virtual environment has given us that opportunity to be people again and actually focus on people and not just think about what the offering is, but who the person is behind that. So the emotional connections, the preparation, understanding someone's objectives, the ability to actually listen to people and not think that we've got all the answers, which is actually really important for me as a lawyer, not to be someone who just thinks I've got all the answers, because okay, I can have answers at times, but it's about understanding the question first. And for me, that's what has greatly changed over lockdown, is actually that focus on what's the question, not what's the answer.
Yeah, amazing. I really love that. I think that's so true. Like, this is my dining room, and I suppose that's what's happened, hasn't it? It's helped to humanize so much of that and actually make people. Yeah. Tracy, I thought you looked like you were gonna add.
For me, mainly, it's all about how do I find people to talk to. What I do is seen with quite a lot of skepticism. Free money, what do you mean? Really? What do you mean no win, no fee? You don't charge us till the end? Really? So it's a bit of a different concept. Before, I had a big black horse that used to run down the beach, run through the hospital, by your side. We had a theme tune and everybody loved us and we didn't have to try that hard. Now it's like, okay, who are you? So going back to what Chris was saying, that human connection is definitely there. I like this online for the first meeting, the explore meeting, if you like. You see the dog, the kid, the wife, the window cleaner at the window. And because some customers are just not used to this forum, and neither was I, again, just like Chris, it really is quite an icebreaker to see what goes on in the background. So I love this, but I do appreciate the face-to-face.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I think it's easy.
I think that just sort of, for me, just based on those two things, it has been that piece around that I've been able to communicate with all my clients, but face-to-face. So that in the virtual world, whereas typically I'd be picking up the phone or doing emails, it allowed us to be able to go, should we just jump on a video call and have this natter? And so actually somebody said to me the other day, let's go retro and let's go on the old telephone. I was like, oh my God, like so used to doing this side of it. And I think that's been one of the things for me around keeping these key relationships, is being able to actually see them and have this conversation. Thanks, Annabelle. See you in a minute. Aidan, let's come to you next. What about you?
I liked what Chris said around about asking questions rather than having answers. And I think I've worked with quite a few different businesses through the pandemic. One of the businesses I was working with, we just said, okay, look,
one is that when one of them is that when you're making a point, because what usually happens is people are talking like this, and then you have this. So I'm making notes. So what's happening? Barbara's making a really good point here. So I'm just doing this. Now, this could look like anything to Barbara. Am I texting someone? Am I ordering some groceries? It doesn't mean anything. So for example, when you are making notes, you should tell the person you're making notes. So if I'm talking to John, I'm talking into the camera. John, That's a really good point. I'm just going to make some notes. Now, you notice what I've done is doubled down on the use of John's name. I've leaned into the camera and I've done a bit of that as well and told John, I'm going to make some notes. Now, we wouldn't normally do that in a meeting because you'd be thinking, well, you know, I can see that you're making notes. So if you are going to make notes, just remember that all the other person can see is your scalp and your head focused on something. So I do think an alternative would be this. So I've got my microphone there. So what I do, Ben, I have my notepad here and it's absolutely clear what I'm doing. And I think on a webcam call, the biggest respect you can give anyone, Annabelle, is to show them you're making notes. So I'm talking to Ashley. Okay, that's a good point. I like that. That's a good point. Almost, Ashley, you kind of got to exaggerate, but within a reason that you're very attentive to the content of what's being said to you. Whereas most of us are more attentive regarding what we want to say, which is normal because we're the ones that, so it's just two little things to consider. One is if you are going to make notes, make it clear that's what you're doing. If someone has made a good point, lean into the camera. Because if you think about it, if I said this to John, I think that's a really cool point. Like in there. John, that's a really good point. Will you just hang 10? Can we just backtrack and backfill that? So just 1 second. And you know something, without being insincere, people like to be told they've made a good point. People like to, you know. So there's a couple of things there, Ian, you know, backtrack to it, man.
The worst meetings, Bob, are board meetings when you've got two screens and you're trying to read the minutes or notes that someone's put up and all the rest of it. And then I have to make the point. I am reading what you're, what you put up there. I'm not ignoring you. So no, thank you. That's good.
Yeah. Can I just say something on board minutes? Because I have to go to 4 lots of board meetings. This may not be appropriate, but if it was, it's actually to print the board minutes off and have them on a flip chart. If I was you, I'd do that rather than having them on another screen because it's so distracting. Oh, okay, I can see the point that you've made in. Okay, like that. I just consider it because it's better to go, I like that. Can I just make a mark on my copy of the minute?
Yeah, sadly, the last one I ended up chairing because someone missed a meeting and someone was ill. It was 350 pages. No, I will not. Yeah, fine.
Not very environmentally friendly, is it, Ian?
No, man.
Not really.
No. We'll never hit that net zero target with you having meetings.
I think sorry, I've just jumped in. I'm just bobbing around all the different rooms just to check in on everyone and make sure everyone's okay. But I don't know what you think, Bob, but just generally speaking, any meeting that I've had online, whether it's a bigger meeting like this or a one-to-one, I think it's just really good to frame and set out the meeting because then people know, like you say, excuse me, they like to know where they are. So that sort of ties in with what you're saying. So excuse me.
It's all right. Let's go for it.
Myself a minute.
More gin.
Well, I can feel a question from Ben.
What do you do about dying on screen then, Bob?
Well, that makes it memorable.
I know. Sorry, hay fever strikes. It's horrendous.
But yeah, I just feel Ben wants to contribute. I can feel that, Ben. That's one of the things about the webcam. I can just feel that you want to say something, man.
I've got one of these newfangled ones that's got the emotion sensor on it as well. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting conversation. And I work in sales and business development, and my work is with other organizations to help them with their sales and business development, but in a really specific area. So I work with health innovators. And so my customers tend to be health systems, NHS organizations, and all the complexity that involves. What's been really interesting over the last kind of 12 to 18 months has been, it's often been a lot easier to get meetings with people because they'll do a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
But it's been a lot harder to get a hold of people in the first place.
Yeah.
LinkedIn has proliferated, and that's proved to be a really useful, contagious, that's proved to be a really useful way of connecting with people, including kind of professionally in this sector, I've also found that the most intimate way to have a conversation with somebody is on the telephone. Actually picking the phone up and dialing their number. It's like, oh, it's a phone call. I've had one of those for weeks, right? Everybody's surprised because it's not a Zoom call. And it takes away the distraction in the theatre of looking at what's going on in your room and wondering if that's a background or is it real and what's that book you've got there, which is all nice because it personalises it. But actually on the phone, all you've got is a voice. And it's so.
Hi, Annabelle. You're on mute.
I know. Hi. Oh, God, I've had a mad coughing fit. That's horrendous.
Bless you.
Oh, yeah. Hay fever. Oh.
Oh. Right, ready? So just to confirm, I'll pin Becky, then I'll pin Kate, pin Bob, then pin Matt, but you don't want any background of the questions. No. Fabulous.
No, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. We're
Right,
probably
I'm
going
gonna
to
close.
overrun a little bit, but that's just the way it is.
I'll close the rooms now because it gives a 60-second countdown, so people will start piling in, all right?
Yeah, cool. That's fine. Thank you. Thanks.
I didn't mean to come out of that meeting so early. I meant to close the message down.
Don't worry. Welcome back, everybody. We'll just wait. There's just a few more people to come back and join us. They're making the most of every last second in their rooms. Right? So just waiting for more people to come back.
That is really awesome wallpaper, Laura. In the background.
It's cool, isn't it?
That's just.
It's dogs.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's
I
from
could quite make it
eBay
up.
if you ever need one.
Ah. Well, over the house, I've normally got lots of pictures in the background, so it's like.
Laura, are we all back now? I can't see.
Yes, we are now all back.
Oh, brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I know it probably wasn't long enough, but hopefully you'll be able to carry on the conversations afterwards with each other. As Mandy said, we'll be sending out all the LinkedIn details for everybody. So if you don't want your details shared, please just drop me a message and let me know. But without further ado, I'm going to go to Becky Brennan. Thank you, Becky. Hello. So your question was, what have you done to keep your key relationships intact during lockdown? What were the takeaways from your session, please?
Lots of things, some kind of more generic, some more novelty. So we said that lots of people have been kind of using this opportunity to do the basics right. So emailing people, phoning people, sorting out your newsletters, using LinkedIn a bit more, things like that. So virtual kind of ways of communication, I guess. And then trying to make interactions a bit more memorable and valuable. So Amy was saying that they've been doing things like gin tasting events, so sending people out cocktail kits and then on the call making it whilst having the conversation, that kind of thing. And Chris was saying about a pizza night, so sending out pizzas, getting everyone to cook them, and then coming together to kind of enjoy them and chat whilst you've got your pizza. So that's all great. Daniel was saying about people who maybe previously wouldn't have been into virtual meetings because they've been using Zoom in their own lives. They've then been able to have business meetings over Zoom, which has actually made their company be able to interact with people that they wouldn't have been able to. So that's been great. And then we talked about a dial-in walk as well. So there's been so much screen time, hasn't there? So just saying to people, look, instead, let's just do an audio only. Everyone go to a different location, enjoy nature, we'll chat while we're out there.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. I love that.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. And just one thing to add, all of these fantastic takeaways, our lovely breakout room hosts are going to condense into blogs, and we'll be sending those out next week as well. So thank you, Becky. Kate, you had the same question as Becky. Have you got anything different to add? Anything else from your discussion?
Yeah, and we took probably a slightly different approach, because what lockdown had done for 3 of our members had actually meant a career change. Or certainly moving into, well, in fact it was, slightly different organisations and doing different things. So actually what we talked about was the fact of how do you connect with people, and again picking up from what Amy had said before in terms of that preparation, but also we sort of said that lockdown afforded us the opportunity to be much more personal and look for those personal connections, emotional connections. We're all in a difficult situation, so it sort of allowed that piece to come about and those relationships to become a bit more human, a bit more personal. The other big piece was around actually it gave us the opportunity to ask more questions, do more listening, and therefore, because of the situation and the fact that it was ever changing, we could really hear what our clients problems and challenges were, and then be able to go away and find sort of more fit for purpose solutions and ways to be able to support them. So I think, I can't remember who said it now, somebody said, it's what these guys, they're successful salespeople, have been doing for a really long time. A lot of us got the opportunity to have that. And I think the other things really were around this online piece, that actually somebody said to me the other day about being on the telephone and it being retro. And I was like, it is, because we do this now. And this is lovely, that actually it's a great way, whether it's a first face-to-face appointment, or actually really nice, now that hybrid move of maybe that first meeting is actually in person to build that relationship, get that connection. But whatever the way, we get to now see each other's faces and be able to talk and catch up with things. So I think they're the kind of key takeouts.
Great, thanks, Kate. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So now I'm going to go to Bob, whose question was based on COVID experiences. What are the key skills that online business development requires? Bob, what came out of your room?
Well, first of all, that's some really great content that the other two have just shared there. So that's really cool. I would have said within our group, 2 things that I got out of it was the point that was just being made about the telephone, and although it's retro, that's what I was thinking. The phone's become a key skill again, really. And then it's just to focus on personalization of relationships, and just to keep thinking, well, how can we make that personal? So I'd say those were the 2 things, really, Annabelle.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. And last but not least, Matt, you had the same question, Matt Dunn. What were there some different angles from your room?
Yeah, so I think the feeling in the room was that there is a selling skill set that is applicable whether you're in person or whether you're online, and those skills are largely the same. But what online seemed to allow is getting to build that relationship more quickly and more easily in a more relaxed way, and getting across the human side, getting across the personality and the sort of trials and tribulations of life when you're largely at home. And so if you buy into the idea that people buy people, it's actually potentially easier to get to know someone over a series of calls like this than it is in real life meetings, where perhaps we put on a bit more of a facade and there's a lot more of an effort to get there. And that sometimes you might think, having made the effort, you've got to get the sale, you've got to go straight to the sales pitch. Whereas in an environment like this, you can build that relationship. So I thought that was a really interesting insight. Just from
I think you get the window into someone's world, don't you? So like seeing their background, what they do, like Tracy was saying in our room. So brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm just really conscious of time. We've sort of slightly overrun a little bit, but that is a positive in the fact that we had lots to chat about. So I'm going to hand back to Mandy now. who will wrap up for us. But if anyone wants to stay on, we will be hanging around. And if you want to stay on and chat, then please do. But Mandy, over to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, everybody. It's like, if there was one way to get across my vote for a deeper dive single topic conversation in September, it was this call today. It's really been a lot of fun. So thank you to everybody. Hopefully we've really kind of got across to you that what the Collaborate Business community is a place for business owners and leaders to leave egos at the door. People who are passionate about professional growth as well as business growth, and who just like that mixing of ideas to come out with even better ideas. So we'll be lifting the wrapper on our free business community really soon. If you enjoyed today, please do go and say thanks to Richard Love and Libraries Unlimited, part of BIPC, on social. We will have a long hot August month off, and we'll see you in September for A, another live, and B, if you're interested, a deeper dive with Bob and Amy. So thank you to everybody. If you need to run, we're very conscious and always respectful of your time. If you've got a few minutes and you want to stay and hang around and join the after party, then please do. And of course, we'll connect you via email with everyone's LinkedIn. Thanks, everybody.
That's great. Thanks for that. Got to head on. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
But please, if you want to stay, then take mics off. If you need to go, then it was great to see you.
How was the in-person thing on Friday that I slightly couldn't get to after really pushing in-person events, which I definitely guilty about.
Oh, well,
sorry to give you FOMO, Daniel, but it was brilliant.
I know.
It was very good, yeah.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was really great.
That's okay. I blame Flybe for not having decent flight in Manchester. Totally blaming this.
No, don't worry. We'll be having another one soon. We're going to get our calendar
cool.
all sorted and everything, and we'll let you know. And hopefully, you won't be in Liverpool, or we can live stream you in from Liverpool.
There you go. I will try to make the event. I think that could be easier.
Bye, everybody. Got a suit on. Bye for now.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
I'm off too. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Barbara, for saying you'd stand in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we had the biggest drop off ever, I think, today, didn't we? We had 50 registered. What, with 25 turned up?
Yeah. What's
sunny weather?
Noise. Is that Daniel in the background? Is that?
Yeah, Daniel.
Oh, is that mine? I'll say goodbye because it's too noisy here. I'll see you later.
Bye, Daniel.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sunny weather, I reckon.
You reckon?